Hello everyone and welcome back to another book review. Today I am going to be reviewing Alterant by Sherrilyn Kenyon and Dianna Love. This is the second book in the Belador series. The first book in the series was Blood Trinity, and I actually read the first book in the series as part of my romance reading for Valentine's Day. I thought it was romance because my library classified the book as romance, but I think it was urban fantasy. At least the side of the book says that the series is urban fantasy. I don't know if you can see it with the broken spine, but it was definitely not a romance. It felt more like a urban fantasy book with romance elements. However, because romance is not always my cup of tea, but fantasy is much more likely to be my cup of tea, I actually wound up kind of enjoying it, and I wanted to read more in this series because I wanted to see if urban fantasy was something that I could get into. Alterant was the second book in the series, as I said, so I'm going to assume you have at least a little familiarity with Blood Trinity, or you don't care if I spoil what happened in Blood Trinity. But to be honest, this just felt like a very... just an action. It's like watching an action movie. You're not necessarily there for the deep philosophical plot, you're there for the action. And that's what this felt like. Our main character, Eval Kincaid, is an Alterant who is someone who is kind of this mix of someone who has powers, but then isn't entirely like a deity. So she's not really recognized by the council of people who control fantastical creatures. She is believed to be dangerous. Well, everyone who's considered an Alterant like her is believed to be dangerous when they can't control their powers. However, she has been left free mostly because they thought that she hadn't demonstrated that she had any ill intent towards anyone else. And also everyone else who was bad as an Alterant, who had like shifted into their beast form and killed people, were men. But things kind of changed in the last book when they discovered a pregnant female Alterant, which kind of changed the game because they're worried that lots of Alterants are going to start popping up and they're going to be evil. So Eval Kincaid in this book has been sent to prove her innocence to the tribunal, which is this group that she has to answer to, and she's been tasked with finding 3 escaped Alterants, I believe it was, and 3 dangerous escaped creatures, they call them, but they are the Alterants, and return to prove that she's loyal and she's not going to also become a dangerous creature herself. This whole book very much felt, and I feel kind of bad saying this, but it was very much a palate cleanser. It felt like something I would read between reading other books, particularly books that maybe I was coming off an emotional high from, high Q. So if you're in between something and you want to read something that's nice, it's actiony, it again goes back to the action movie. You don't necessarily watch an action movie because you want a deep philosophical take on war and the impact it has on the civilians who are caught in the midst. No, you just want to see some things blow up and some cool guy with a machine gun go. That's the reason you're watching it. Probably as a little bit of a background noise as you try to make a move on your date or whatever. It's not really, you're not there to get a philosophical deep take. And I feel like that's what this book is. It's a palate cleanser. It feels like the same genre, I don't want to say genre, but it could fill the same role as like a cozy mystery might fill, or one of those cheap paperback romance fills where you have just come off a really good book and you just want to read something quick, easy, fast, my aunt called it like a one-night stand book where you just read through it and you just get it out of your system so that you're not emotionally hung up on the other book that you read, which I feel is true. I was actually just coming off of reading a very, very tense arc in High Q, and I was kind of hesitant to pick up any other fiction because when you come off anything that's really good, I feel like you're hesitant to read anything else because you know nothing else is going to measure up to the really good book that you just read. I also had this problem coming off the comic series Check Please. So sometimes you just got to pick something up and read it, and this was entertaining. I will give it that. The fights were interesting, the action was interesting. I feel like there's always a million things going on in this book. Same with Blood Trinity. Eval has to talk to someone and save someone and get someone, but also keep this deadline, and there's always a time pressure in these books, which adds a little bit of, it's like the clock ticking down on a bomb in an action movie. But it's all just superficial in the fact that it's just supposed to be a fun action movie. There's hot men too, so if you want a little bit of romance, this one only got moderately spicy compared to Blood Trinity, which was not spicy at all. So I guess we're going to stay tuned for book 3. But if you're just looking for something fun, easy, light to read, you want something to read while you're on vacation, you want something to read while you have a long layover, you just got done with a fantastic book, and you want something easy to just kind of continue reading without getting bogged down in a book hangover, you're in a reading slump and you just want something to read to kind of get you out of it, I think this fills the role perfectly. I do think there's lots of action, there's hot guys, there's fights. It's interesting, but it is very shallow, surface level action movie. That's almost what I'm comparing it to, just an action movie. I probably will read book 3 because it is kind of interesting. It's very easy to read through. I whipped through this. This is like 400 pages and I whipped through it in an evening. So it doesn't take a long time to read because again, it's very surface level, not very deep, but I'm not saying it's bad because it's superficial and surface level, even though I would give it a 3-star rating. I think it fills a role in any reader's, not every reader can go from an emotionally hard-hitting book to an emotionally hard-hitting book to an emotionally hard-hitting book. Like, that becomes very draining very quickly. So I think there's a role for books like this in reading, and Sherrilyn Kenyon does a great job. I feel like, and Dianna Love, don't want to forget Dianna Love. I think that if you're just looking for something easy, fun, light to read, or if you want an introduction to the urban fantasy genre, this series would be great. Do start with book 1, Blood Trinity. They are assuming you understand what happened in Blood Trinity and they don't really hold your hand. It feels like Blood Trinity ended and then you can just immediately pick this book up and start reading. So do keep that in mind. But other than that, I did enjoy this book, would give it a 3-star, and would recommend this series for anyone who's in any of the situations I've listed previously in this video. If you have any thoughts on this book or have anything you would like to share, put it in the comments below. I would love to hear it. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching and I hope you have a great rest of your day.